The quid pro quo being pushed on Ukraine by President Trump. His lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, appears to have his very own serious legal exposure. First, his associates, Lev Parnas and Igor Fruman, were indicted on campaign finance violations and conspiracy to use foreign money to buy political influence. They pled not guilty yesterday. Then, multiple sources, including the New York Times and Bloomberg, reported that federal prosecutors are investigating Giuliani himself. Then came further reporting that there is also a counterintelligence component of the investigation into Giuliani. But despite all that, last week, Giuliani parted ways with his lawyer, John Sale, a former Watergate prosecutor, announcing that it would be, quote, silly to have a lawyer when I don't need one, adding, quote, if they take me to court, I would have to get another lawyer. Well, maybe something's changed because now Rudy Giuliani is apparently shopping for counsel. Sources telling CNN that Giuliani's been reaching out to defense attorneys about possible representation. To assess just how much trouble Rudy Giuliani is in, I want to bring in Glenn Kirshner, former assistant U.S. attorney for the District of Columbia and an MSNBC legal analyst. Glenn, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Rudy Giuliani, whether he's in trouble or not, he talks about it a lot. He talks a lot about the fact that he's done nothing illegal. In fact, he tweeted out last night, with all the fake news, let me make it clear that everything I did was to discover evidence to defend my client against false charges. Dems would be horrified by the attacks on me if my client was a terrorist, but they don't believe Donald Trump has rights. Justice will prevail. I just think it's important for people to understand and be reminded. We went through this with Michael Cohen, that a lawyer acting on behalf of their client is not protected if the underlying work is against the law, nor are they protected if they have a side hustle going. Both of those applied to Michael Cohen, by the way. He was doing things that were illegal and he had side hustles going on. Rudy Giuliani's in trouble for things that would be outside of the law and things that he might have been doing on his own.
If you're representing a client, and during the course of that representation, you're engaged in committing crimes, whether it's to benefit the client or not, then we apply the crime fraud exception. So your privilege evaporates and you can be charged. Not only can you be charged, you can be charged as a co-conspirator with your client. We've already seen a number of Giuliani associates indicted. And, you know, there's a great piece that was done by Barb McQuaid and Joyce Vance where they kind of drafted up a mock indictment based on the public reporting alone. And, you know, I've reviewed hundreds of indictments in my 30 years as a federal prosecutor. This one looks pretty good. I mean, they come up with charges that seem to fit what we now know Giuliani has done. They say, listen, he's in contempt of Congress for basically, when subpoenaed, saying, I do not recognize Congress's authority to conduct this investigation, to issue subpoenas. You can fight the basis on which a subpoena is issued, but he's just I'm not interested. I'm not all day long.
Yeah.
That's not a thing, Ali.
Yeah.
You can't say, for instance, if you're hauled into court as a criminal defendant, you can say, I don't recognize your authority or jurisdiction. I'm going home. And the judge will say, marshals, step him back. Because he's not going home. Giuliani's doing that to Congress. So, one, he's plainly in contempt of Congress. Two, it looks like he's involved in a conspiracy to defraud the United States by soliciting a thing of value from a foreign national in connection with a U.S. election. That basically just describes what he and Trump have been up to with that dirty deal they were trying to do with Ukraine. And is an investigation of Joe Biden and his son a thing of value? Everybody talks about that. Here's why the president, and by extension Giuliani, wants to be able to say Ukraine is investigating Joe Biden. They don't care if it's a legitimate investigation. The president wants to go out on the campaign trail and say, American voters, Joe Biden is being investigated by Ukraine. It doesn't matter if they're investigating legitimate wrongdoing by Biden and his son. It is the fact of the investigation that Trump will try to exploit.
Does anything there change the idea that soliciting that information, it would be, I think, easy to determine that that's a thing of value, right? Because opposition research is something you pay for. It's a thing of value that influences voters and potentially the outcome of an election.
Absolutely.
So there's clearly a thing of value involved in digging up, going overseas, going to Ukraine, and trying to, or the president getting on a phone call with the president of Ukraine, trying to get dirt on Joe Biden.
No doubt about it. And that's why Giuliani, I think, is on the hook for conspiring to defraud the United States. The third charge that they put in this mock indictment, and it's a mock indictment, no charges
but it's
have
a
yet
good
been
read.
brought. It's a great read, both legally and factually. The third charge is conspiracy to commit bribery, and that also seems to apply based on, Trump withholding congressionally appropriated funds. He's holding them hostage. Virtually, he's kind of willing to walk over the body of dead Ukrainians to get what he wants, which is unfair advantage in the election. He's holding that money hostage. I don't know why Congress isn't more upset about that, because they're the ones who have the right to spend that money.
Right.
The president doesn't get to now rein that money in and use it for his political advantage, but that's what he was doing. Those are the three charges that they lay out in this thought experiment, as you say, mock indictment.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, based on what we've seen reported, all three seem to be supported by the facts.
I recommend people look it up. Joyce Vance and Barbara McQuaid have written this, and they have described their what the experiment is. It's worth reading. Glenn, always good to see you. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you,
Commissioner.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.